Hey, what is up, Frag fam? Corbin here again from Northwest Scent. So today we are going to be talking about 5 affordable fragrance alternatives to much more expensive fragrances. Now, I did a video like this a few weeks ago where I went over fragrance alternatives. Of course, this list is going to be different, new fragrances, but that one was more going after fragrances that are maybe a little bit more affordable, but just in general, ones that I prefer to the more expensive version. Now, this one, I will say right now, for the most part, I do prefer the original version or the more expensive one, not the alternative, but the alternatives are really good options if you're on a budget. Most of these, they're really close. So again, if you're trying to save some bucks, definitely go with the alternatives here. I think they're all really good. So if you guys want to find out which fragrances these are, then please stick around. But first, let's roll that intro. Alright guys, welcome back from the intro, and like I already said, this is going to be 5 affordable fragrance alternatives to much more expensive niche fragrances. Now, before we actually get into the list, I do want to go over my less frequent upload schedule recently. Basically, I've just gotten a lot more busy in life. Work has just been hitting me hard, and I'm just doing other stuff outside of that as well, still trying to take care of myself and everything. So fun hobbies like this, they just kind of have to get kind of set to the side a little bit because of that. I do not enjoy making videos any less though. It's definitely one of my highlights making these videos, so I hope you guys can understand that. I'm going to try and keep a somewhat consistent schedule of videos every other day. I could potentially get down to maybe 2 videos a week just for the foreseeable future, but that doesn't again take away from the fact that I absolutely love doing this. So I just want you guys to understand that, so you understand why the videos have been coming out less frequently. But with all that out of the way, let's hop into the video with the first fragrance alternative. Okay, so starting the video off with the first fragrances that we're gonna be talking about. Now, the order of this is gonna be the more expensive fragrance initially, and then I will present you the alternative. So the more expensive version, I guess the niche fragrance, even though this is technically coming from a designer house, I really consider this one niche. This is YSL's Tuxedo, a really popular fragrance. I know you guys have seen this one before. And yes, there are fragrance alternatives out there to this one. I don't know if many people talk about it. There's probably a clone out there, but in general, I do not go after clones. There is going to be one on this list. However, the alternative to this one is, I don't think, a direct copy of it. I don't know if they were inspired by it or the fragrance just happened to turn out like this one, but they are pretty close actually. One of the closer kind of alternative pairs that are going to be here on this list. So what's Tuxedo all about? Well, this one features rose, you get vanilla in here, ambergris, and then violet leaf. And I think rose is the dominant note here with that vanilla as well. This is a very sweet fragrance. It is quite floral as well though, but it's kind of a dark rose, if that makes sense. It's not really bright and uplifting. It's kind of dark here. Still a little bit jammy though, so if you're not a fan of rose, you may not like this one. You get that violet leaf in here as well, which comes off almost metallic-like, and like I said, you get that ambergris, which is actually pretty prominent in this fragrance. It adds kind of this salty feel to this, not really aquatic or anything like that, just kind of like this salty brininess. Overall, it's a really nice, again, sweet, floral, kind of jammy fragrance with these kind of cooler metallic notes and then that saltiness I was talking about. Now, the alternative to this one, again, it's really similar. This is one of the closer alternative duos or pairs that's going to be here in this video. This one does not have the rose side to it, and it doesn't really have the like ambergris in here as well. It's not really salty, but it is still a very similar fragrance. This one is coming from the house of Mercedes-Benz, and this is Club Black, which, yes, this one has been discontinued. It's in this video because you can still find this pretty readily available. In fact, I'm gonna be linking all of the alternative fragrances down below in the description for the best price that I could find online. So like I said, this one does not have the rose in it like Tuxedo. Instead, this is a very dominant vanilla fragrance. This is really considered a vanilla fragrance, and that's what you get in the forefront. But the way they've done the vanilla here, it's a little bit dark and spicy, and you do kind of get this like metallic feel in a way in here, which to me really makes this smell very similar to Tuxedo. Again, just imagine Tuxedo without that like rosy side to it and without the saltiness. That's what you get here, and it is a very strikingly similar fragrance. And the best price I could find online for this one, which was a tester, but there's no cap with this, so unless you need the box, just go with the tester. So you can find this for $45 shipped from perfumeonline.ca, which is a Canadian seller, but like I said, that is shipped to the US. If you're in Canada, you can get it for I think 39 Canadian dollars with free shipping. Again, if you're here in the US, it's gonna be $45 total. An amazing steal for this fragrance. I think it's a pretty high quality smelling fragrance overall, and like I said, it's really similar to Tuxedo. So if you guys have been after Tuxedo, but you want something that's just a more affordable option, definitely check out this one. Again, Mercedes-Benz Club Black. Okay, so up next we're moving on to a Hype Monster. This is one of the just most popular niche fragrances out there, especially from this house. And if you've been in the niche community for any amount of time at all, or just in the fragrance community in general, you've probably seen this one get some talk. This thing smells very unique, even though there is alternatives out there, of course, like the one we're gonna talk about. When this stuff came out, there was nothing else out there like it. An original creation from the house of Maison Francis Kurkdjian, and this is Oud Satin Mood, which, yeah, I know you guys have seen this one. It's a really good fragrance. Honestly, one of the best oud roses out there. I'm not a huge fan of wearing this one personally, but I really like this stuff on my fiance, and this is actually her bottle. Now, what this one is about, like I said, it's an oud rose, but this one is in almost a sticky territory. Some oud roses, even though they are dark, you know, they don't really go in a super sweet direction. This one is very, very sweet, and that's because of the style of rose that he's using, but also the presence of some vanilla here. Now, luckily that sweetness is offset a little bit with a little bit of a balsamic style of oud. So it's not a like skanky oud or anything like that. It's not a woody oud really. It's really more in this balsamic territory in a way, almost gives it this salty feel. But like I said, the Bulgarian rose here, super sweet and jammy, and like I said, almost sticky. And then you get that vanilla in here as well, which just makes it even sweeter. So it's a very delectable and almost like edible smelling style of oud rose, if that makes any sense. But there is a really good alternative out there for this one as well, with very good performance as well, because this one is known for the performance. Luckily, the clone version, which yes, this next one is a clone, has very good performance with it as well. So the clone is coming from the house of Samy Andraus, and this is Aoud Space. So I got a care package from Samy with this fragrance, and I didn't really know what this one was about. I honestly did not know if this was a clone or an original creation, but as soon as I smelled it, I instantly knew that it was going after Oud Satin Mood. So yeah, it is close enough to just kind of hit you like that, and if you're familiar with Oud Satin Mood, you're definitely gonna smell the resemblance here. The difference with this one is this goes in more of a drier, kind of woodier territory. It is still a little bit of a balsamic oud, but it's more in a traditionally like woody direction as well, and there's like less sweetness here. So this one is not like syrupy sweet. I think this one, because of that, maybe could be a little bit easier for men to pull off. I know Oud Satin Mood is unisex and anybody can wear what they want, but if you're not into super sweet stuff and maybe you like that fragrance, but you're looking for something, again, that's just not as cloying, you can definitely check this one out. So a great alternative from Samy, and this one is $30 from his website for this 30 milliliter. Again, I'm gonna be linking all the links to the alternatives down below, so check them out if you're interested. So again, the next fragrance alternative that we talked about was coming from the house of Samy Andraus, and this was Aoud Space. Okay, so up next, we're moving on to, honestly, the alternative that is the least different in price from the original or the more expensive fragrance. The difference between the two that we're about to talk about is not huge, but if you're trying to save like 20 or 30 bucks and get something that is pretty similar, definitely go with the route of the alternative. So the original fragrance that we're talking about, the more expensive one, it's coming from the house of MUSICA, and this is Kumquat Wood, which this one doesn't really get much talk from the house. Honestly, I think it's a really good one. When I first tried this, it was a blind sniff when I did one of those videos with Justin Copeland, and it really impressed me not knowing what this stuff was. It was very pleasant, just easy going, and this is just a fresh, kind of woody, spicy fragrance. So this actually features vetiver. You get cedar in here as well, grapefruit, and then spices. Now I will say the spices here are more warm spicy, so you kind of get this interesting contrast between warm and then like refreshing from those citruses, and then the vetiver, because this is honestly a fresher style of vetiver. However, this kind of clashing does work really well. I think they offset each other, so it's kind of a more balanced fragrance. The grapefruit here is very forefront. It is rather tart, not much sweetness, although there's a little bit of just this vague sweetness in the background. I think it's coming from some AMRA that's actually here. And like I said, you get that vetiver, which is really fresh, but you also get some cedar in here. Adds this nice kind of coniferous side to the fragrance. In general, this stuff is just very pleasant, easy going. If you want something that smells decently high quality, but kind of has like a designer style of appeal, definitely check out this one. Although we are moving on to the alternative now, which like I said, this one is a little bit more affordable, about a $20 or $30 difference. And this is coming from the house of Terre D'Hermes, and this is just the original Eau de Toilette. And I know you guys know about this one. So if you weren't aware, yes, this is kind of similar to Terre D'Hermes, although this combo, I will say, is not quite as close as the previous two that we talked about. They're more just in the similar realm of fresh and woody with like a vetiver note. That's what you get here in this one, a decent amount of vetiver. This one is fresher, however, this doesn't really have the warm, spicy side to it. It's got more of the citrus note, but there's a little bit of a fresh spiciness in here, almost like pink pepper. In general, this one, again, it's just a like slightly more affordable alternative, not the exact same as Kumquat Wood, but in a similar ballpark. So maybe if you've been interested in picking up Kumquat Wood for some reason, but spending $90 or $100 has kind of turned you off, you can find this one, and I again link down below. I found this on a reputable seller from eBay. So yes, it's from eBay, but it is a verified and reputable seller, and they are doing $51 for this size, which is the 3.4 ounce. So it's the full size bottle. That's the best deal I could find online. It is a tester, but again, these bottles have no cap. So if you don't really care about the box, definitely check it out down below. So again, the next fragrance that we talked about, an alternative to Mancera's Kumquat Wood, is this one from Hermes called Terre D'Hermes, the original Eau de Toilette. Okay, so up next, we're moving on to a fragrance from, I would say, an up-and-coming niche house. These guys have actually gotten decently popular recently, and they've actually showed up on some discounters, which is kind of a newer thing. About a year or two ago, I had never really heard of them. They put out some awesome fragrances though, and for the most part, they are very original, except for this one that we're gonna talk about, which, funnily enough, this is actually my favorite from the house of the ones that I've tried. And I do not think this one was going after the alternative that we will talk about in a minute, but there is definitely a similarity between them. So we are starting with this one, like I said, the more expensive version. This is coming from the house of Kajal, and this is the original Homme, which if you've not been able to try this house, you really need to. Their presentations are on point. If you can't see it right here, it's got these metal plaques and the cap, it's solid metal. It's just really high quality looking, especially for what you're paying. I think it's an awesome presentation. And like I said, their scents definitely match the presentation. They smell fantastic. This one is no exception. So this one features mandarin orange. You get cardamom in here. There's also tonka bean and then musk. So it is rather sweet and spicy. And I would say in general, it's on that darker side, but there is a surprising freshness to this one as well. And even though it does lean in this darker direction, it does smell lighter, if that makes sense. It smells like it's using heavier notes, but maybe they're just more spaced out or in something. Like it just makes the fragrance not smell quite as heavy as it actually should. I know that's kind of a weird descriptor, but that's really the best way I can describe it. It is really fantastic though. Again, citrusy, sweet, and spicy. It does have this kind of clean nature to it, again, from that musk, and there is actually cashmere in here as well. Now the alternative is definitely the older fragrance. This one's been out for years at this point and very, very popular. Now this one I will say is overall fresher and not super close. This is probably the alternative pair that have the least amount of similarities, but there are still enough for me to recommend this one to you as an alternative to Kajal Homme, which the alternative is coming from the house of Chanel, and this is Allure Homme Sport Eau Extreme. And honestly, you could probably put the original Chanel Allure Homme Sport here because they are pretty similar. This one just has a little bit more of a focus on the tonka bean, so this is just a little bit richer. Again, overall, it is a fresher profile. And this one also has mandarin orange. Again, it also has that tonka bean, and it also has musk. So you do get those three prominent notes in both of these fragrances. This one, to me, it's got more of the emphasis, again, on the freshness. I think you get more of that kind of musky presence, but also you get the signature Chanel aldehydes in here as well, which kind of give it this fuzziness. It's just very unique to the house of Chanel, and the mandarin orange here is a lot more prominent as well. So again, if you're looking for something that's more affordable than Kajal Homme, if you're looking for that one, you can definitely check this out. I will say you cannot find Chanel fragrances really discounted at all unless you want to buy it from like a third-party seller or some seller on eBay. You can't find this one discounted. So I linked Sephora down below, which had the 50 milliliter option, which is the most affordable version that you can buy. So you can get this one for a decent price compared to Kajal Homme, but again, you won't be able to find this on discounters. So again, the next fragrance alternative that we talked about, an alternative to Kajal Homme, that was this one right here called Chanel's Allure Homme Sport Eau Extreme. Okay, so for the last fragrance alternative pair, I actually saved a popular discontinued fragrance. Now this one I think got discontinued within the last year or so. This stuff was very beloved by the community, and I do not know why they got rid of this one. It really sucks that they did. I'm glad I have this bottle, but it's nice to know there is a solid alternative out there to this one. So we are talking about this fragrance from the house of Tom Ford, and this is Plum Japonais, which if you know how good this is. And this is such an amazing fruity fragrance. I really like the way they use plum here. Plum is an awesome fruity note. It's actually kind of up and coming for me as one of my more favorite notes, at least as far as fruity notes go. I really like grapefruit, but plum has just been blowing me away how it's been used in fragrances recently. Here it is dark, almost brooding, mixing with these spices, and then this oud. This is a very dark, mysterious fragrance, although it is a little bit sensual at the same time. You have cinnamon in here, you get plum, there's saffron, you get some liquor notes, there's oud as well, and then vanilla. So it is very sweet. sweet again, but it's kind of got this broody nature to it because of those warm spices, but also the oud here. The oud, just like any Tom Ford oud, I don't think it's a real oud note. It does not come across dirty at all. It is actually a rather clean, almost woody style, but here the focus is really on those boozy notes, the spices, and then that plum. So Plum Japonais, it's a really fitting name for this one. Again, it's got that fruitiness front and center. It's a very dark style. So moving on to the actual fragrance alternative. Now this one might surprise you because if you look at the note breakdowns of Plum Japonais and this fragrance, they are not super similar, especially to the point where you would think they would be alternatives to one another. They have a couple of notes, but you know, any fragrance can share a couple of notes with something else and won't smell like it. I think these ones are honestly really similar. If I had to put a number on it, I would say about 80% similar. So we are talking about the house of Serge Lutens, and this is 5 o'clock Au Gingembre, which if you want to get this one, again, it's linked down below. I found it on FragranceNet for I think just under $97, and that is for the 3.4 ounce bottle. I have the like 1.6 ounce here, so it's going to be the bigger bottle than this one. That's the best price I can find, and it's going to absolutely destroy Plum Japonais as far as prices go. I mean, people are jacking up prices on Plum Japonais left and right now, so definitely don't pay those overpriced prices. You can get this one for a much better one, and again, I think this is really similar. So as far as the notes with this one, you get tea, bergamot, there is cinnamon, some woody notes, and then honey as well. Now the only really similar note between the two is that cinnamon, but again, there's something with this one where it just has that same style of DNA. This one is almost fruity. It's got this sweet nature. There is kind of a dark woodiness to it. Again, it's not oud like in Plum Japonais. They're just calling it woody notes, but it kind of comes across the same. This really doesn't have the booziness that you get in Plum Japonais, nor is it quite as like syrupy, fruity, sweet, but it is kind of in that similar direction. I would say overall this one is more of a fresher profile, but still kind of in that ballpark. So there's really not much more that can be said about it. If you're looking for an alternative to Plum Japonais, which is now just ridiculously overpriced, definitely check out this one from Serge Lutens, which again, this is 5 o'clock Au Gingembre. Well, there you guys go. That was 5 affordable fragrance alternatives to much more expensive and discontinued niche fragrances. If you've tried any of these fragrances down below, be sure to let me know what you think and how similar you guys find them. Again, all of these, I think they are great alternatives, not the exact same fragrance, not carbon copies of one another, but kind of in a similar ballpark. Overall, I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and if you did, I would really appreciate dropping a like just to show your support, and then that way more people can see my videos on YouTube. Additionally, if you want to write a comment, maybe just let me know your thoughts, as well as some new video ideas or topics, that would be great too. And since you're down there doing all that stuff, if you've not already, if you could hit the subscribe button and then the bell notification, that would be amazing. That way you stay up to date on new videos whenever they get released going forward. But with all that out of the way, that's all I really have for you guys today. So I hope you have a good one. Stay healthy, stay wealthy, and smell great.